Welcome to City Hall. We'll get started this morning with our invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. Tom Jones is here from the City Rescue Mission to lead us in the invocation. Afterwards, I'll ask Councilman David Greenwell to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Would everyone please stand?
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for another incredible opportunity to live today, God, to bring glory to you. Lord, we thank you for this city council and each one that serves here, Lord, and serves our community. We pray, God, that you would give them wisdom and guidance and direction, Lord, as you lead our city through them, Lord. We just give you the praise for it. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Your Honor, thank you. If I may just make a real brief comment and then ask Tom if he would come back and visit with us for just a moment. A few weeks ago, I had the pleasure of attending a presentation at the City Rescue Mission where they were awarded the Color Care Across America Award by Benjamin Moore Paints. They were one of 51 shelters that were selected throughout the U.S., and it was a great opportunity for me to learn more about the shelter. And one thing I did learn is that last year they served an average of 365 men, women, and children each day, providing services to homeless individuals. So, Tom, would you mind coming back up here and just letting us know what's going on at the City Rescue Mission?
Well, City Rescue Mission is the state of Oklahoma's largest homeless shelter. We have actually 640 beds. We're able to serve a little over 2,500 different homeless individuals in the last 12 months alone. Our largest increase in population are women with small children. And there was a time in the past where homeless shelters were predominantly filled with middle-aged men who had substance abuse issues, but we're finding because of the economy a lot of single moms with children. We have sometimes upwards to 100 children living at the mission on a daily basis, and we're there to serve this community and the impoverished of this community, and we just count it a privilege and an honor. We do not just provide beds and food for them, which has been traditional in the past, but we have a medical clinic, a dental clinic, a legal clinic, an eye clinic, and we also have a job placement center that we're placing about 80 people a month in jobs that are coming through, not just the homeless population, but those that have lost their jobs that still have their homes can come to our job placement center, and we work with about 150 companies here in the metro that partner with us to make sure those people have a chance to stay in their homes and working. So we just count it a privilege to be able to serve this community.
Well, thank you. I believe the city is truly blessed with your organization and the services you're providing us. And individuals can go to your website to find out more information and also to find out how they may be able to assist either through donations or volunteering their time. Is that true?
Yes, it's just cityrescue.org.
Great. Well, thanks again for coming down.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. We are also honored today to have with us our Employee of the Month. Each month, the South Oklahoma City Kiwanis Club helps us honor one of our over 4,000 employees as the Employee of the Month. And this morning, that winner is Paula Hurst from the Planning Department. Paula, why don't you come up? Let's show our appreciation to Paula. We have a resolution. I'll ask the clerk to read it.
Whereas Paula Hurst has been a city employee for 4 years and 9 months and is an administrative coordinator in the Comprehensive Planning and Urban Design Division of the Planning Department. Whereas Paula sets an example of how administrative staff should perform by her professionalism, her optimism, friendliness, and helpful attitude towards citizens and co-workers. Whereas Paula uses her high-level technical skills and attention to details to coordinate all divisional processes, including 6 design district committees and commissions staffed by the division. Whereas Paula Hurst creates schedules and timelines for various initiatives, including ordinances and contracts that go through the Planning Commission and/or City Council approval processes, and keeps track of the various deadlines. Whereas Paula is the face of the division to the public and always provides the highest level of customer service, constantly identifies areas in need of improvement, and takes the initiative to propose solutions. Whereas Paula never complains about her assignments or workloads, is willing to work after hours and on weekends, and is always willing and available to assist staff and customers in whatever is needed to accomplish the job. Whereas Paula Hurst takes a proactive approach to projects and responsibilities. An example is when 2 previous administrative positions were vacated, she proposed ways to accomplish that work without rehiring for those positions. Whereas Paula Hurst has an outstanding work ethic, great initiative, problem-solving abilities, takes ownership of her work, and always strives for excellence, she has received the Planning Department's monthly award for excellence and is highly respected by all of her co-workers. Whereas this council desires to recognize Paula Hurst for her dedication, professionalism, and commitment to the citizens of Oklahoma City. Now therefore be it resolved by the mayor and council of the city of Oklahoma City that they do hereby thank and commend Paula Hurst, November 2011, South Oklahoma City Kiwanis Club Employee of the Month.
All right, now comes the exciting time. We need a motion and a second. We're getting ready to vote on whether or not you should be the Employee of the Month, Paula. All right, cast your votes. And it's unanimous. How about showing a round of applause for Paula? Thanks very much. Thank you very much. We're grateful for your work and a lot of other people in the planning department. It's an exciting time in Oklahoma City. Move on to item 3A of the council agenda. We're pleased to have Roy Williams here as the CEO and president of the Greater Oklahoma City Chamber of Commerce. We asked Roy to come by from time to time and give us an update on chamber activities. Roy, welcome back.
Thank you, Mayor. Privileged to be here. Mayor, member, City Council, Mr. City Manager, it's always a pleasure to come before you. It's been a little while since I've been here, so I apologize in advance. I may take a couple more minutes than what I normally do, but hopefully it's information that you will feel worthwhile in receiving. The really first thing I want to do is say thank you to all of you for the relationship that exists between the public and the private sector here. Because of our mission being economic development, you can't be successful in economic development without a great partnership between both the public and the private sector. Public sector, you specifically set policy, you set regulatory decisions, et cetera, which is all very critical. And we sort of see ourselves as the foot soldiers out there in economic development on the ground, conducting really the sales and marketing effort on behalf of the community. And equally, those things are necessary for our success. And obviously, one side can't do it alone. It doesn't work that well, so we are very proud and pleased to continue this partnership. There's a number of things under our area of economic development I want to share with you, and I'll break it out into different categories. And the first has to do with our marketing and our sales activities in our image campaign. I'm not going to go deeply into our image campaign. I think most of you have heard or seen a lot of it. It involved the campaign we did in the print Wall Street Journal and some online various publications from March through July of this past year. We did pre-testing, post-testing of the readers of the West Coast subscription people to the Wall Street Journal. I want to share those results with you. The post results showed that 30% of the people who read the Wall Street Journal recognized the ads. That was based on a third-party analysis, and the Wall Street Journal told us that's one of the highest they've ever seen of any kind of advertising in the journal. We also were successful in what we were trying to accomplish, not just getting people to read it, but we improved and increased the perception of the reader based on different measures, anywhere from 16 to 31%. Again, very substantial numbers. And the important thing to us was that the highest increases were in categories that are most crucial to job creation. Of the people who read our ads, 88% requested more information about the ad. So that's really proof that we do have a product here we can sell. and that people will buy if we just have the resources to get it in front of people. And that's what we're working on, is extending this campaign, because it's an extremely expensive one. Parallel with that, we have our ongoing public relations effort. Just in the calendar year 2011, we've worked with media outlets outside of the state of Oklahoma on 59 different stories. Stories in USA Today, The View, Washington Post, Southern Business and Development, Industry Week, et cetera, and we continue to do that, and because earned media is really part of our strategy, as well as purchase media. A little bit about some economic development trends that we're seeing, because we just completed an extensive business retention expansion report. We shared it with the Economic Development Trust. We'd be happy to share it with you. But this is what we're seeing, and that is that companies are really continuing to delay their location decisions. We have a number of really good business prospects that we always think are sort of right at the threshold of making a location decision, but they keep pushing those timelines back. And they've been doing that now pretty much for the entire year. And it's obvious that you attribute this to what's going on globally, nationally, both in the political as well as the economic uncertainty that exists. And we hear the same thing from our contemporaries around the U.S., so it's nothing different in Oklahoma City. We also do not expect a significant change in corporations' level of confidence probably until after the 2012 elections. That's kind of what everyone is telling us, that everybody's kind of on hold. We do, though, however, continue to get prospect inquiries, and they're really kind of across the realm. They're not really narrowly focused. We're getting them in manufacturing, a broad variety. We're seeing them in shared services, including finance, IT, HR, operations. We still get warehouse and distribution inquiries, aviation, aerospace, bioscience, health services, and customer services. So we're still seeing this strong inquiry activity happening. Where we have seen a drop-off is from international firms and companies in the alternative energy sector. That is really drying up because of the economy nationally, so we're not seeing much of that activity at all. We have seen, though, an interest in California companies for some reason. Perhaps it was due to our advertising, but also perhaps because of the business climate and the economy. And so we've developed a number of new prospects from that particular region. As I mentioned, we shared our business retention expansion report with the trust, and we'll be happy to share it with you if you would like that. A little bit about some of the numbers as it relates to all of this. This past 2011 so far, we've assisted with about 4,400 jobs of companies. The good thing is that the average wage is in excess of $68,000. Nearly $375 million in new capital equipment expenditures have taken place. What we're seeing is a lot of expenditures in capital equipment. Companies still trying to get lean. So they're not hiring a lot of people, but they're spending a lot of money to become more efficient. We've also measured about $9.5 million in additional local tax revenues. And in our business retention survey, where we surveyed 262 companies, 73% of them have indicated they'll be adding employees, which is really strong. We're very surprised. From our business retention efforts, we identified about 3,500 jobs that came from the expansion of existing companies that we played some sort of role in assistance. The average number of those jobs was in excess of 70,000, which is 78% above our regional average, which is about 40,000, and more than $250 million, again, in capital investment there. We also had some success in recruitment. I think you have some action you're taking today on some of the trust incentives. So far, we've had 5 new companies to the market, just under 1,000 new jobs added, average wages in excess of $61,000, which is 55% above the regional average, $78 million in capital investment. And as I mentioned earlier, we continue to build on that. We currently have 32 new business leads in our portfolio and 11 new prospects, meaning we've had them on the ground and been able to show them our product. Final area in economic development is retail. All of you are familiar with what's going on in this marketplace. And again, it's clear that the partnership between the city and the chamber is critical in making this kind of destination retail happen. You've heard reports of the outlet mall, grocery stores, what's going on, the upgrade of existing stores as well as new market grocery stores. And really what I think all of that tells us is that our market is very strong and that consumers want choice. They continue to want to see things that we do not have in this market. And the best news is that we're still the lowest unemployment rate in metro cities over 1 million in the nation, and we've been number 1 or number 2 for nearly 3 years now. So whatever it is we're doing seems to be working. A couple unrelated directly to economic development. We do have a very focused advocacy role both at the nation's capital as well as the state capital. We're very closely monitoring what's going on with Congress, especially as it relates to the defense budget because of Tinker and the FAA here. We talk almost daily with our delegation. I think everyone knows that in some way we're going to get impacted by budget cuts at Tinker and at the FAA. What we never know is what the extent of that's going to be. So we're continuing to work with the delegation. We're continuing to work with people out here as to how we could kind of mitigate that. We also are developing our state legislative agenda right now. I think most all of you know this, but we work very closely with city staff on issues that the city has of importance at the state level, so we partner with the city on trying to get those things done as well. Some of you, including Councilman Shadid, Councilman Greenwell, and Mayor Cornett, accompanied us on the intercity visit to Minneapolis. We appreciate your participation in that particular intercity visit. Transit and education were just two sort of the many things that we focused on, and those things we learned a lot to help benchmark our progress in planning for the future for the community. And on the flip side of that, we continue to get a lot of cities coming here for intercity visits. Earlier this year, we hosted Colorado Springs. Within the last month, we hosted Albuquerque, El Paso, and Shreveport. And we also hosted an advance team from Mobile, Alabama, which is planning a trip next year, and about 150 people will be on that. So we've kind of created a little cottage industry here on hosting intercity visits. And again, I want to thank you all for spending time with that. It's valuable to hear the experiences that occur in all of this. The final thing I want to mention is kind of patting some of our staff on the back. We were the recipients this year of a very significant recognition. The CVB, Convention Visitor Bureau, received the Pinnacle Award, which is pretty important to us. Robin Roberts Krieger, our Executive Vice President of Economic Development, was named the Economic Developer of the Year in Oklahoma. And then the other thing we're really proud of is that the Clarion Awards, which is awards that are given by the Association of Women in Communications, national awards, just now announced their winners. There are 90 different categories. There's only one winner in each category, and our marketing and communications group received 3 of these awards, these international awards. And we're competing against entities like the Wall Street Journal, NPR, other major media outlets, et cetera. And there's probably less than a handful of entities that won more than one award, and we were fortunate to win 3 of them. So, again, we were very proud of that. With that, I will conclude, Mayor, and be happy to answer any questions if I think the council member has.
Excuse me, Ray, well, you might make a comment about that. You know, we've heard a lot of criticism about U.S. industry moving offshore, and a victory that you all achieved, and we heard about it at the Economic Development Trust last week, about a company coming in the other direction.
Yes, and as we talk to our peers nationally, more and more of that is happening, that companies are beginning to pull things back from offshore. A lot of factors have contributed to that, so it's kind of hard to say it's sort of one thing. But we see it, and we continually talk to site location consultants who tell us that due to a multitude of factors that we're seeing more and more of that, which is really a good trend.
Well, I was thinking of the English company that was coming to Oklahoma.
Right.
It was born in Devon, England, and they came here because we had Devon Tower going up, and I think they didn't understand the difference. Anyway, it's a company that supports the oil field industry. Halliburton is one of their biggest customers, and they decided to locate a facility in Oklahoma City, manufacturing facility. There'd be first-rate jobs. I think 60 employees initially. It's a large capital investment, and it's an English company moving to Oklahoma, which is just the opposite of the trend that we've been seeing about American companies moving offshore. This is a foreign company moving onshore here to supply a demand for a product that we use a lot in Oklahoma. So anyway, it's real, I think, a mark in your favor because they're able to do that, attract a company.
Those are kind of rare, so, yeah, we really like them.
That's the reason I mentioned it.
Thank you.
I appreciate them locating Ward 3, Roy. Thank you very much.
We've been trying to do that for a long time.
Roy, if I may just make a comment, just on my limited travels since being elected to the council, when I go out of state, the thing that I enjoy hearing is while we're in a strong economic climate in Oklahoma City and Oklahoma, I think the thing that a lot of people from outside of the state look to, and I think this statistic of 88% of the 30% who recognize the ads requested additional information supports this position, is they are impressed with the citizens reinvesting in the city of Oklahoma City through the various bond initiatives that we've passed. And it's a partnership that we see from the private sector, from the public sector, as well as individuals saying we want to make Oklahoma City a better place to live. And I think the rest of the country recognizes that and wants additional information as to how we're able to achieve that. So it's just so rewarding personally when I get to go out of the state to listen to other people talk so impressively about Oklahoma City, and I think the Oklahoma City Chamber has played a very important role in that perception.
Thank you. And sort of as a follow-up to that, you hear a lot of this stuff, and what you like to do is really see it happen. And I think when you see Boeing, Continental, when we can get in front of their employees and talk about the quality of life in Oklahoma City, and their numbers for relocation just sort of skyrocket, it really means we have something here. It's not just pretty pictures, it's not just colorful brochures. There's really a quality of life that that once they learn of it, they truly are interested in taking part in it.
Yeah, Ed?
I want to ask you just about the public health effects on business. I think I was struck the first time we met, you said that one of the things you heard the most, if not, was the effect of our obesity epidemic, our public health epidemics among businesses as you were traveling the country trying to recruit businesses here. We have high costs now. All indications are those are going to skyrocket over the next few years. American Public Health Association estimates up from the $300 to $400 million a year and costs directly related to obesity. That'll increase to about $1.1 billion per year by 2017, or about $1,700 per person. Despite an education campaign by the mayor that's second to none, indications are that our rate of obesity is increasing. I know that would be impossible to quantify, but what do you hear nationally? What do you think the impact is over the next decade?
That would be hard for me to say. But I think to your point, it's going in the wrong direction. It's certainly something that public policy needs to address, and I know that because I'm involved on a local effort as well as a statewide effort to try to come up with some of those solutions. But it continues to be an issue as it relates to the quality of life of a community, and it's going to have to be reversed because, to your point, the costs are just not sustainable, and we have to get our arms around it. And one thing I'm proud to say is that a lot of companies here, a lot of businesses here, take it very seriously, and they're doing some really great programming internally, providing new options to employees, providing on-site health care, a number of things like that to try to help turn that tide and to change that trend.
Anybody else? Roy, thanks for your work.
My pleasure. Thank you.
We're on item 4 of the council agenda. It's the Journal of Council Proceedings. Item 4A is to receive the journal for October 25th, and item B is to approve the journal for October 18th. We have a motion and a second. Comments or questions on the journal? All right, cast your votes. And it passes unanimously. On to item 5, it's request for uncontested continuances.
Mayor, outside of the two that are listed on the agenda, there's a couple of others on page 10, under item 8G1B, 312 Northeast 15th Street. We ask that that be stricken. The owner has secured. And item I, 225 Southwest 41st Street. We ask that that be stricken. The owner has secured. And then on to page 11, under claims recommended for denial, there are two claims here. Item 8J1B, Geneve Cox, and item 8J1C. I believe the municipal counselor's office has received some additional information on that, and they're going to investigate and redact it.
All right, any other requests for uncontested continuances? We'll recess the council meeting, convene as the Oklahoma City Municipal Facilities Authority, where there are 2 items. All right, comments or questions on these 2 issues? All right, cast your votes then. And the MFA passes unanimously. We'll adjourn the OC MFA, convene as the Oklahoma City Public Property Authority. There are 2 items. Okay, we have a motion and a second on the PPA. Any comments or questions here? Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Adjourn OC PPA, convene as the Oklahoma City Environmental Assistance Trust. There is 1 item. Okay, we're voting on the EAT. Cast your votes. And it passes unanimously. We'll adjourn the OC EAT and reconvene the council meeting with the consent docket. All right, are there any individual considerations?
Mayor, if I could, 6I and 6Y.
I and Y. All right, Meg, why don't you go ahead and get started?
Wanted to comment about 6I. I was just really glad to see how many neighborhood associations have signed up to take the training for sign sweeps. It's been a little while since we've seen a report with regard to neighborhood sign sweeps. And
That program has worked really well. For those of neighborhoods who choose to be involved in this program, they've been responsible about it, they've been diligent about it, and it really has worked well.
yeah, it makes a huge difference, and it was just encouraging to see how many folks were participating.
You can see the results, too, as you drive around the areas that have
can.
neighborhood associations.
And it saves Mr. McAtee from a lot of time on the streets.
So that was great. And 6Y is a resolution authorizing a memorandum of understanding with COPTA and Jacobs Engineering. And I guess I just wanted to, I know the manager's office and others are working carefully with the railroad and discussing these bridge issues, and there are a lot of sort of factors surrounding our long-term transit plan that are bubbling to the surface, some of which perhaps don't seem like they need to be dealt with right now, but some strategic planning and working with ODOT and the railroad would be a good idea. So I just wanted to...
Yeah, there's several things that this covers, and then there's some other issues that have come up by some of the folks that are interested, outside folks interested in transit. Amongst those are the UP contract that's out there, bridges up towards Edmond and how we can work with them. And we are working with those. As a matter of fact, I think Councilman Whiten and Mr. Clowers are going to be meeting with ODOT within the next week or two to take a look at a couple of those issues.
Perfect. Great. That's all I wanted to mention.
Thank you, Meg. Anybody else on the consent docket? All right, we have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. It passes unanimously. On to the concurrence docket. We have 6 items. All right, any comments or questions about the concurrence? All right, cast your votes. Passes unanimously. This takes us to items that require a separate vote. Item 8A1 has been struck. Item 8A2 is a zoning case in Ward 8. The address is 14200 North Rockwell Avenue. It's a planned unit development, and it would become a new PUD. Pat?
Thank you, Your Honor. I think the owner is here and his attorney is here. If there are any questions, this is in an area that is developing commercially. One point I'd like to make in this particular project that I think is unusual, it's adjacent to Rockwell Avenue north of the Kilpatrick Turnpike. And the developers out there, and Clay Farhar and his associates, are participating with the city in reconstructing that road. They're at least 3/4 of a mile of the road. They're participating in the developer across the road who is developing some apartments in that area. They're participating, providing most of the funding, really, for the improvement of that street. So I think it's an unusual situation, and I think they should be commended for it. There was no opposition to this, I don't believe, at the Planning Commission level. Did anybody sign to speak on it, Francis? I move approval.
All right, we have a motion and a second. We'll be voting on item 8A2. Any other questions? All right, cast your votes.
And
Passes unanimously.
I'd like to ask for the emergency on this particular project.
All right, how about a second on the emergency? Cast your votes on the emergency, and it passes unanimously.
Thank you, Your Honor.
We're on to item 8A3. It's a zoning case in Ward 1. The address is 9000 West Britton Road. It's currently a planned unit development, and it would become a new simplified planned unit development. Gary? We sure did. Been deferred until November 22nd. We'll move on to item 8A4, which means we're back in Ward 8 at 10924 Hefner Point Drive. It's a plan unit development, and it would become a simplified plan unit development. Pat?
Thank you, Your Honor. This is a little bit different than a lot of the zoning cases we had. This just allows a sign to be built next door to this. And the owner's attorney's here, David Box. If you have any questions, I think David would be able to answer the questions. There'll be a monument sign. It'll be consistent with the signs in that area. It's a medical building. There'll be additional medical buildings built out there, and this sign has been restricted to medical advertising only for the facilities there. Has anybody signed up to speak on this one? There were no protests. This is a commercially developed area. I don't think the sign will be obtrusive. It may be helpful for people to find the building they're after because there are a lot of buildings in this particular area. I move approval.
All right, we have a motion and a second. We're voting on item 8A4. Cast your votes. Passed unanimously. On to item 8B. This is an issue in Ward 4. It's a special permit to operate an auto sales dealership at 301 Southwest 59th Street. Pete?
Mr. Mayor, if I may, on that previous item, may we ask for the emergency?
Sure. I move the emergency on that previous item, item A3.
And a second? All right, we're voting on the emergency on item 8A4. Cast your votes.
Thank you.
Passed unanimously.
Thank you.
All right, now on to item 8B. Pete?
Are there anyone here, is there anyone here to speak against this? Is there anybody opposed to this? I'm going to move approval. There are some problems with the site. It's small for a auto sales facility, but it's been used for that in the past, and I think it'll be okay. So I'm going to move approval.
All right, we have a motion and a second. We're voting on item 8B. Cast your votes. And that item is approved. On to item 8C, an issue in Ward 2. The address is, well, it doesn't have an address, but it's on Northwest 57th Street, Northwest 58th Street, and Harvey Avenue. And the idea is to close a portion of the right-of-way.
Anybody signed up to speak?
Is there anyone here wishing to speak on this item? No one has signed up.
I move for approval.
All right, cast your votes on item 8C. And it passes unanimously. Item 8D has to do with the summer recess of next year, determining the dates that the council will meet. Comments or questions here, or a motion?
Move the item.
Okay. Cast your votes on item 8D. Passes by count of 8-1. Item 8E is a public hearing regarding dilapidated structures. Is there anyone here wishing to speak on any item listed under 8E, the dilapidated structures? Okay. We do have one person that has signed up to speak. Do we have a second on the motion?
Second.
All right. Bob Warner? Yeah, Bob, come on up. Bob, we will need you to give us your name and address for the record.
Bob Warner, 1404 Oak Drive, Edmond, Oklahoma.
Okay, and which item did you wish to speak on?
Well, it all pertains to mowing, and in your own words here, it says that there's supposed to be a copy of the notice attached to the property. I go by there every 2 or 3 weeks, and there's never been a notice on the property. Also, when we were over there, there's no grass, or was no grass on there because we hadn't gotten any rain.
Well, I'm wondering if we're talking about the same property then, because
the address is 1404 Northeast 15th. That's the property I'm talking about, and that's the one that should be listed on yours.
Yeah, I'm not seeing. Is that?
I believe that's a claim.
Is that coming up on G?
I believe it's a claim.
I think it's on page 11. It's
item J.
1E.
Oh, this is a claim recommended for denial. Okay, Bob, if you'll have a seat, we're not quite to your issue yet.
Okay.
All right, we have a motion and a second on item 8E, which is the dilapidated structures. Cast your votes. Passed unanimously. Item 8F is a public hearing regarding dilapidated structures in the HP district. Is Is there anyone here wishing to speak on this item?
I understand staff recommends,
Okay, looks like we have someone up. Good morning.
Good morning, Mayor.
We will need your name and address for the record.
Anna King, 425 Northwest 28th Street. That's the one that I'm talking about. That's my dad's house.
Okay.
And I'm curious to know if the house is to be torn down, his house caught on fire in March, and then somebody set a fire again to it in May. If he was willing to pay for this to be burnt down, will he be able to have that building, that house destroyed?
Well, let's ask staff. If your question is if he is willing to pay to have the building torn down?
If he could, because this is in a historical society
Right,
area.
so he's wanting to remove the building.
Yeah, because there's just no way that he can afford to rebuild that house the way that it is in that district.
Well, let's find out.
Yes, if after the 30 days that's granted here at declaration, it is either not underway for repair or removal, code enforcement can have that house removed. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
But I think the question is can he tear it down himself?
He would have to apply for a CA for demolition, I believe, and go through the Historic Preservation Commission for that approval to demolish himself.
that's where we have a giant catch-22 here with this process, because staff has recommended that this be demolished.
That's a recent amendment that was made to the zoning code, where for the owner to tear it down, they have to get a CA, but if they don't tear it down, the city will be tearing it down and putting it as a lien on the property.
Okay, well, that's what he doesn't want. He doesn't want somebody to have a lien on his property because he owns it.
Right. The payment for that upon the work being done there's a 6-month time period in which him to acquire the funds and pay code enforcement for any action.
I'm sorry, the 6 months is refers to what?
Once the work is performed by code enforcement and a bill has been mailed, there's a 6-month time period for ownership to pay code enforcement in our office, interest penalty free. It's part of the options for
Okay, but
billing.
if he is wanting to do it himself, what course of action should he take?
He should apply for a CA with the Historic Preservation
Okay, can you help
Commission.
her with getting that paperwork started? It does sound like there's a process that's going to have to take place.
It's going to be a huge process with the Historical Society, and we spoke before.
We have.
We had my dad here when they presented this house in front of the Historical Society, and that was my question. If he could tear it down and have it demolished where he wouldn't have to pay anybody. And this is the very first time I'm hearing anything about a lien if he pays for it to get torn down or anything like that, and then there would be a lien on his house.
Only if it
Unfortunately, your family or your dad hasn't taken any action on this. I mean, it's been several months,
He couldn't because it was under investigation for insurance, and he couldn't touch the house.
but he still could have, well, okay, maybe not. But to go through a process right now through that application, that application isn't going to be approved by the time we get around if we approve this today to tear it down. So I think our choices are either going forward and having the city tear it down or grant a continuance on this for a certain period of time to allow them to go through the HP process for a certificate of appropriateness. I think those are the options that are before the council here to accommodate the situation.
If we're going to tear it down, do we not have to go through the process?
No.
So I want to ask this question. If the owner contracts with a demolition company that specializes in this type of work, are you saying that the owner would still have to go through the historical preservation district in order to get approval for a demolition company?
That's correct.
Yeah, the private person has to get a certificate of appropriateness to tear down the property, even though it's been recommended that it be torn down.
Yes.
Did the historical preservation recommend that it be demolished? Has it been before them?
Denny, I thought staff did, I thought it was recommended to be demolished.
Comments should be in your packet from the...
They do comments in advance, so they probably have a recommendation.
Is there any way that he can work with the city to have it torn down? Because the worst thing, because he doesn't have money to have a lien on his property, and he owns it. And I would hate for him to have to pay for the lien and couldn't make the payment on it, and then you guys take it from him.
You don't necessarily have to have the lien on your property. After the city tears it down, you'll get the bill, and then you can just pay the bill, and then there would never be a lien on the property.
Okay, that's all I needed to know. That's what I needed to be clear. Thank you.
Is there a way that you could work with the citizen to at least inform her of the costs? I mean, I know that we use certain crews to demolish property, and my experience has been that it actually is pretty cost-effective.
It is quite
relative to you hiring
cost-effective.
somebody yourself. So if we could just make sure that there's, good information about what it's likely to cost and perhaps set up a payment program, I think that would be helpful.
Is this a picture of the property here?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so it's boarded up and secured?
Now it is.
Yes, it's what it appears to be. I just want to make sure that it's not a hazard to the rest of the neighborhood and that it...
Oh, no, it isn't.
Okay.
Oh, and there is a note in here, Mayor, from Catherine Montgomery with regard to this property, and she says that the house, including additions visible from the public right-of-way, do not contribute to the historic integrity of the Mesta Park District, and demolition of the house and garage will have no adverse effect on the historic district.
Okay.
So it needs to come down.
So when
city
can
could
we expect
demolish
this
it
building to
tomorrow.
come down?
Well, they would have 30 days as the normal time period, and at that point, it comes up for review and possible. We would award a contract. The contractor has, by specifications, a 60-day time period. It usually does not take that long to fulfill. It generally takes about 45 days for the work to actually be performed upon award of a contract for demolition. The permitting process, they have to acquire a demolition
So it'd
permit.
be about 75 days.
Approximately, yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Any other comments or questions on item 8F? All right, do we have a motion? And second? Move it. All right, cast your votes. Item 8F passed unanimously. Item 8G is a public hearing regarding unsecured structures. Is there anyone here wishing to speak on any item listed under 8G?
Move the items.
Second.
All right, cast your votes. Passed unanimously. Item 8H is a request from the NBA team to hold their events on game nights. The elephant in the room is that there are no game nights at this point, but when there is a season, they want to continue the habit of hosting celebrations out between the Cox Center and the Chesapeake Energy Arena. Any comments or questions on this?
Just question, some of these are in the next calendar year. Is there any prohibition about us approving revocable permits in this next year?
No, there's no funds involved, so that's a funding issue.
Okay.
All right, cast your votes on item 8H. Passed unanimously. Item 8G, I understand we do not need executive session, Kenny?
We do not.
All right. How about a motion then? Cast your votes on 8G. It's not 8G, it's HI. HI. Cast your votes. Passed unanimously. Now on item 8J, this is claims recommended for denial. Bob, do you want to come back up? Hi. We will need your name and address for the record, Bob.
Bob Warner, 1404 Oak Drive, Edmond, Oklahoma.
Okay, and which item are you here to speak on?
Well, I've got 3 items on here because they mowed the grass over there, and I've always had a good relationship with the city, but it says here that you're supposed to put a copy of the notice of mowing on the building itself. Well, the building is boarded up, and they did send a notice and put it in the mailbox, but who looks at a mailbox on a boarded up building? And I go over there every 2 or 3 weeks to check on everything. They broke in 2 or 3 times, but there was never a notice on that building at all. And then when I called the code enforcement, Why, they said there was thousands of dollars on it. And I had just bought the property a few months before, and so I contacted the real estate lady. She said it can't be because the title company cleared it all up and everything. So evidently they've had some problems with in the past, whoever owned it in the past, because evidently they just mow it automatically. And because they mowed it twice, and then when I finally found the letters in the mailbox, why, I told them, I said, don't mow it again, because I got 2 riding mowers and a push mower. I'll mow it. And lo and behold, when they sent me this about this meeting here, they've got another one on there, and we've mowed it 3 times since the last part of July myself. And I don't understand, really, because there's a lack of communication some way or another.
Let us get some advice here from our legal staff. What can you add to the story?
Good morning. Amy Cronk, Municipal Counselor's Office. The Code Enforcement Division complied with the state statute's requirements for posting notice on the building as well as mailing a notice. The statute only requires that they mail a notice to the person on the county treasurer's office, which at the time this was originally done April 19th of this year. It was showing as Megan Ellis as the property owner, according to the county treasurer. So a notice was mailed to Megan Ellis, but they went the additional step and looked at the county assessor's site and located Mr. Warner as the property owner and also mailed a notice to him. But the mailing address with the county assessor's office was the property address. So a notice was mailed to the property address in compliance with the state statute. So there was a notice posted on the building on April 19th, as well as a notice mailed to both Ms. Ellis and Mr. Warner. Taking an extra step, the property was mowed. Mr. Warner was assessed the charge for the property for the mowing on, May 6th. And the statute says that if within 6 months the property is in violation of the municipal ordinance again, automatically code enforcement can request that a contractor mow the property, which did happen 2 additional times. And Mr. Warner was mailed those demands for payment for those. It wasn't until the first week in August that Mr. Warner contacted code enforcement and gave them a different mailing address. And he was informed at that time that his mailing address needed to be changed with the county assessor and the county treasurer in order for us to mail the demands at a different address.
Was our original interest in this issue based on complaints from someone else?
That I'm not sure about.
Okay. Skip, it's in Ward 7 if you want to jump in here. But, I mean, Bob, it looks pretty bad in some of these pictures.
Well, a lot of the pictures, there's the actual picture from the house. The other one that you were showing from this side, you're getting the picture of the property next door. Right there. That's the property next door. That is not my property.
The house is your property, but you're saying the
yes,
angle kind of makes
that you
that
really
tall
see
grass.
now over by that tree. That is my grass there, and that probably is the first time, but that can't be the second and third time because we never got any rain.
What are you going to do with the property?
Well, I was fixing it up to either rent it or sell it. I've done that quite a few houses. And that's Oklahoma City's always worked with me, and so I've always had a good relationship.
How many times have you done this? How many times have you done this before? Have you bought property?
Oh, about 5 or 6 times.
And this is the first time you've ever had an issue with taking care of your property?
I've never had a problem with Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
I've even had one that you were going to, in Quail Creek, that y'all were going to tear down in a week, and I went down to engineers and talked to them and got a 30-day stay on it and fixed it all up.
How many times did we mow?
3 times.
So 3 times and $700?
Actually, the total amount is, it's $990. I'm not sure where the $700.20 came from, but the total charge for the 3 mowing incidents was $990.
Okay.
How much of that is mowing and how much of that is penalties or?
I believe at the time this was done, the administrative charge was $250.
Each time?
Since changed, yes.
So $750 of this is administrative charge?
I believe so.
Skip, do you have a preference in where we go from here?
I guess the question I have is that when the city initially got notice that this was in need of mowing, was the notice just posted on the property, or was the notice given to the last known record owner that was?
The notice was posted on the property, and the next day notice was mailed to both Ms. Ellis, who showed on the county treasurer's side as the owner, and also Mr. Warner, who was shown on the county assessor's site as the property owner.
Okay, so the very first notice of mowing was given to both Mr. Warner and Ms. Ellis?
That is correct.
Correct. And was posted on the property?
That is correct.
Okay. Bob, do you want to say something?
There was never a notice posted on that building. You can go over there and look. You won't find any staples where they stapled it. You won't find any glue where they glued it. You won't find anything on that building where there was ever notice put on the outside of it.
Bob, I'm guessing there was a notice. Now, whether or not it was still there when you saw it, I can't tell you, but I just can't imagine that we were delinquent or had the inability to put a notice on the house. But it's not a perfect system. I mean, we're not suggesting that you didn't see the notice. We can take a motion and go for a different amount here, if anyone would like to make a motion in that regard. Or we can leave it on. All right, Bob, I'm sorry. It looks like we're going to leave it on, and the entire amount will be assessed to you.
It's not right. Sure not.
Thank you. All right, we're ready to vote on item 8J. Cast your votes. Item passed unanimously. We're on to item 9. This is claims recommended for approval. All right, any comments or questions? All right, cast your votes. Passed unanimously. Moves us on to item 10. It's items from council. Gary, you want to get us started? All right, Ed?
Two items. One, I would ask that we, continue to study the meeting times here in November and December. Today we voted to cancel every other meeting in the summer. We just coming on the heels of not doing that in November and December. We're wrapping this up in less than an hour. And I understand the December 13th meeting is canceled to have a meeting on parking. So I'd hope that we'd continue to log how much time we look and continue to do the experiment, which was kind of the point of that resolution that was denied. Second, I understand that Tulsa City Council is debating today means of increasing oversight over EMSA. There's been a slew of newspaper reports bringing up concerns about EMSA. And I would suggest that Oklahoma City needs to do the same. The one item in particular is that it now appears, we just learned on Friday actually, that it appears that for years IMSA has made sizable interdivisional payables between the Western Division and the Eastern Division without the knowledge of Oklahoma City, sometimes in excess of $2 million, basically incurring debt for the taxpayers of Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City then has to make interest payments at whatever the prime rate was that year. Currently it would be about 3.25%. When we have money in the bank that we're earning 1%. So it wouldn't make any sense for Oklahoma City taxpayers to pay that kind of interest. No entity can unilaterally obligate the taxpayers of Oklahoma City to debt without their permission. That's why we have bonds. That's why people vote to incur debt. We learned about this initially in April of 2010. About 18 months ago, the Finance Department became aware of it. They asked City Auditor Jim Williamson for help. On June 23rd, 2010, the city manager, the council trustees, the EMSA director, and the city staff met to discuss interdivisional payable practices, and the city informed EMSA that those payables were undesirable. On August 30th of 2010, IMSA gave a cash flow schedule to city staff and had a plan to eliminate that, phase that out by December 2010, which I believe the city believed it was happening until we learned in August of this year that actual cash flows had resulted in an interdivisional payable as of June 30th, 2011. We thought was in the range of about $200,000, but then Tulsa World came out with a story on October 25th, last Wednesday, that was actually the debt was about $800,000. So Laura Johnson, the assistant city manager, came to the IMSA Trust meeting last week and indicated that she was completely surprised, had no knowledge, and that just cannot happen. And the taxpayers have paid interest payments upwards of $62,000 a year. I asked City Auditor Jim Williamson to look at the last 7 years. He completed that last Friday. He indicated this has gone on every single year for the last 7 years, so we can assume it's gone on beyond 7 years, but we're paying interest payments of as much as $62,000 a year. It seems possible that there is not adequate oversight. A couple of things that make me think that is, one, Clay Bird, Tulsa's interim economic development director and a member of IMSA's board, told the Tulsa World that he voted to approve the ambulance services budget without reading it. My understanding is that the director, we've only had one director in 33 years who makes a budget of a salary and benefits of $241,000. That's more than anybody in Oklahoma City staff. There's more than anybody in Tulsa staff. And yet we haven't had a performance review for years. I'm not sure how that constitutes adequate oversight. I'm concerned that we've had a spike in spending. We spend about $44,000 on lobbyists. It's not clear that what those lobbyists are lobbying for are consistent with Oklahoma City's interests. We have had a spike to $104,000 for community relations or public relations. We're told that one reason for the spike above $100,000 is because of the window of opportunity. So that means that the taxpayers of Oklahoma City are paying for a spike in public relations spending to lobby, basically to lobby for us to stay with IMSA. It has now become clear that Mr. Williamson, who's the head of the American Ambulance Association and does extensive traveling for that association, that a good deal of those travel expenses are paid for by IMSA, by the taxpayer. The American Ambulance Association has never had someone from the public sector be its director before, so they don't pay travel expenses. So IMSA is paying these travel expenses, and I think that needs to be investigated and made public. IMSA doesn't require competitive bidding on anything that costs less than $25,000 or for professional services contracts, and it goes on and on. Basically, I think dramatically increased oversight is necessary. I think with the loans, when the city manager, when city staff comes to them 18 months ago and says, do not incur debt in this way, do not do this, and then it continues, that to me feels like boundary testing. And I think that IMSA needs to know from the city of Oklahoma City that our boundaries are firm and that no one can obligate Oklahoma City taxpayers to debt with interest payments without their permission. Thank you.
Larry?
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd like to congratulate Briarwood on the culmination of their lighting project that they dedicated last week at their neighborhood meeting. My wife and I were pleased to be a part of that dedication and to experience the enthusiasm that the neighbors had in that neighborhood for their future. Then I'd also like to encourage all the neighbors in the Hilldale neighborhood to attend their Thanksgiving dinner tonight at 6:30 for their neighborhood meeting. It's always a great time. Thank you, Your Honor.
Pete? All right, Devin?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. First of all, I'd like to compliment Councilman McAtee on his participation last week on the Mayor's Committee on Disability Concerns Awards Luncheon. Councilman McAtee did a great job with that, and we we both got to meet a lot of great people and appreciate the opportunity to attend that luncheon. Thank you.
All right, Meg?
Just a very quick, I want to congratulate Elliott & Associates for celebrating 35 years of efforts in Oklahoma City. I think our landscape has been greatly enhanced and the bar raised in terms of quality by so many of the projects they've done. It was a wonderful evening.
Okay. Skip? All right, Pat? All right, city manager reports.
This morning we have Shannon Cox who's here, and Shannon's going to give us an update on Project 180. We've had a lot of changes over the last year, and we have more changes to come. Shannon?
Good morning, Mayor and Council. Is there a presentation? I sent it on an email.
Okay. Looks like we have a moment. I didn't take the opportunity to speak, but in Washington, they are looking at a lot of infrastructure issues right now, and we're working on transportation bills. And there was recently a report about the structural integrity of bridges in the state of Oklahoma, and it does seem like we are in this state and a lot of other states under concerns about deferred maintenance. That doesn't mean they're structurally dangerous, but at the same time, we need to continue to get money into these situations, or we're going to run into the structurally dangerous situations down the line. I think we've done a great job of keeping our bridges up and addressed our issues through our bond issues, and I think the I-40 relocation is a perfect example of something that we've headed off before a calamity could take place in the city. But I did want to take the opportunity this morning, because I know a lot of people in Washington are looking at budget situations and placing their priorities, and I want to continue this city's efforts to push toward money toward transportation. We've got to keep putting money into that, or we're just going to be handing off deferred maintenance to the next generation. I don't think any of us want to do that. It's going to take a minute. Okay. Jim, do you want to go up with any of the other city manager reports, or not much else to speak about?
There's not much there. There's claims and payroll and interim financial reports.
Yeah. You know, in a previous lifetime, this is when I went to a commercial, and we'd come back.
This is not a commercial, but I want to pass along a compliment to one of the planning department employees, Aubrey Hemmertree. He delivered a program for my wife's garden club on the downtown Project 180 and Myriad Gardens Park improvement. And after the meeting, Grace had people come up to her and say this was the very best program they'd ever had in years, garden club. And it was, my understanding, it was a thorough, thoughtful presentation of all the things that are going on downtown, and I want to pass along that compliment.
I also was really sorry to be away, but I understand that opening of the Myriad Gardens was a fabulous event. I've heard comments from people all over the city that were able to attend some or all of the events, and it just went incredibly well. Beautiful weather. And
It is. This has been wonderful weather to open a park. You're right. We picked a good time of year to do so.
And I have seen people using it, as early as 7:30 or 8 o'clock, Saturday mornings, Sunday mornings.
I noticed that that the streets were lined on the weekend, and there were families, that had come down kind of as a destination to be around the park and for kids to see it.
And they're also planning to open a skating rink there in the next few weeks, hopefully, to replace the one that was over in front of the Civic Center Music Hall. The venue, I think, is really attractive. It's about the same size as the rink we had before. The difference, a lot of the equipment will be owned by the Myriad Gardens Foundation, so we should have an answer to the people who complain a little bit about the quality of the ice skates they rented for. So we've got an ice skate sharpening machine out there now, so we can take better care of it.
Great.
I apologize for the delay.
Forgiven.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to give a brief overview of the project and then go into the update. Basically, as you know, Project 180 is a complete renovation of downtown streets, sidewalks, and public spaces. It'll change the look and feel and function of downtown Oklahoma City. The funding on the project comes from three major sources: the TIF 8 district, which is roughly the $106 million, city funds and the general obligation bonds that were approved in 2007 is the $40 million figure. And then, of course, we have funds from the Water Utilities Trust that is helping us with the water lines in the project, and that's $12 million. These are the areas that we are constructing. Currently, we have done the orange package, which we call the Reno Streetscape, which is complete. The purple package up around the memorial, that's also complete. Package 3, which we are still constructing, which is the blue, around Walker and Main. And we also have the green area under construction, which is around the Devon Tower. Set to go to bid today is the pink area, which is around City Hall and the Civic Center. This is what a typical streetscape will look like. You show the delineations for the driving lane, the new bike lanes, parking, the amenity zone, and the new horizontal signal alignment. And this is what it looks like when it's complete. This is Reno and Walker, and it shows horizontal signals, bold pedestrian areas, places for people to understand where they're supposed to be. This is up near the memorial, Harvey, and it shows the amenity zone where it's new landscape, street-lined or tree-lined streets. And this is package 3, where we're still constructing. This is Walker and Sheridan, showing doing one half of the street at a time, laying in the bike lane, that charcoal color, so it's delineated that it's separate from the driving lane and the parking. This is some of the things that we've run into on package 3, where we've had several basements in the area, where we've taken the sidewalk off the top and lowered the lids a little bit and replaced the sidewalk in that area. Or while we're also constructing, we've done a lot of waterproofing, like on the 420 building, Character Institute, the Montgomery building, and several of the other basements in the area. And this is package 4, as we call. This is, of course, Robinson before we constructed. They were laying in a few utilities in this picture. This is what we run into a lot of the times, and this is why that area has been kind of slow and difficult. These are at least 5 major utilities in a 20-foot section, and they're trying to lay a water line, communications, and other utilities in this area. And that's, of course, what it looks like now as we're trying to do all this work. And this you guys were referencing while we were waiting was the big grand opening of the Myriad Gardens, which happened on October 15th. And estimated numbers are roughly 20,000 people attended that event. You know, they had day-long activities throughout the festival. There were things in all areas of the gardens. As you can see here, they had a pumpkin patch near the pavilion. And, you know, kids were there to enjoy the festivities. It was a true family event. They also had a farmer's market inside and underneath the pavilion. So there were multiple activities going on in all the separate areas of the gardens. And kids were playing in the Discovery Gardens, and this was one of their favorite features was the interactive water fountain. They truly got soaked when they went through there. And, of course, the event ended with the concert and the relighting of the Crystal Bridge Conservatory. And at this time, I'll open it to questions.
Well, I can just tell you I'm thrilled with what I've seen so far. I think it exceeds my expectations, and I think people are excited about the bike lanes and the on-street parking and just the complete new standard, you know, that we've set for ourselves. And everybody wishes it would be done sooner rather than later, but I know we're already on an accelerated timeline, even if it doesn't seem that way. We are. Any other feedback from council on Project 180?
other than some traffic complaints because of all the street closings that change, it seems like, on a daily basis, my constituents are really excited about it. I've had several people talk about the myriad gardens and the progress they've seen in the streetscape so far. It's a very positive response.
Yeah, me too. Well, we appreciate your work.
Thank you.
All right, citizens to be heard? Anyone signed up? Yes, sir. All right. We have no executive session, so I guess we're ready to adjourn. We're adjourned.